So the game starts with Caro-Kann. White plays c4 and black play d5. And white take the pawn. So usually I think white will take the pawn with the c pawn, with e pawn, and then we have the exchange variation. So here white take the pawn with c pawn, and we have this c open file. So I think both sides should control the file as soon as possible. Another thing is because white didn't play d4 but c4 instead, so I will also recommend black play e5 or e6, and later we push the pawn to d5 because white didn't play d4, so we can control the center. And white also has an outpost where potentially we can control the d4 with the bishop, and so we don't have to play d5. So e5, and we play knight c6. We divide the knight. That's good. Knight to the pawn to d4, and we divide the queen to attack d4. Yeah, I think that's okay. But we should be aware that if white play knight c3, white can also attack our d5 pawn. And in this game, white didn't do that. White played knight f3, and we play bishop f5. So this structure looks very similar as advanced variation in Caro-Kann. White play e5, and usually we play bishop to f5, but it's still a little bit different because white play knight f3. So I would recommend we play bishop g4 in this position. We don't have to always move the bishop to f5. The reason we move the g4 is obvious, because we can pin the knight to get some add some pressure on d4. So white has to protect the knight with knight to d4. So we cannot really take the pawn because queen to a4. So I think there's a problem, there's a fork, and if we move knight back to c6, we'll lose the bishop. But I think knight to d2, the move has a downside, that is blocking the dark square bishop, and then we can play e6, and later we can move bishop to b4, and also since our bishop doesn't control f5, we can move the g8 knight to f5. So we have 3 pieces targeting at d4, and our bishop is pinning the knight. So we have a lot pressure on this pawn, and this pawn should be the weakness we should focus on, because white cannot have another pawn to protect the d4. So play bishop to f5, knight c3, e6. Yeah, I think black has a good structure. Bishop e2, bishop b4, pin the knight, and the castle, knight e7, and knight g6. Yeah, so I don't think knight to g6 is a good position for the knight, because I think from long run, as I said, there is only one open file at the queen side, the c file, and we have bishop targeting at this diagonal. So which means I think black should focus on the queen side from long run, because there is only open files here, and white also has greater space than us at the king side. So I don't think moving the knight to the king side is the good choice if we think from a long-term perspective. And instead, I think we can like castle and later move the rook to c8. So knight to g8, take the knight, and the c3 pawn is a weakness because it's a backward pawn. I think if we have knight at a5 and we can control c4 and maybe rook to c8, yeah, we can attack c3. Queen b2, we also want to attack the pawn with the queen. White offered a trade and trade the queens. h5, want to control g4, h4. Well, I think we should play maybe it's not right timing with b6 because the knight will be pinned, but we should play b6 when it's safe, because we should stop white playing knight to c5. This is really annoying. The knight to c5, the knight will be attacking our b7 because the b file is the open file white can control. We should close the b file basically. a5, yeah, exchange. After exchanging the bishop, I still think we can play b6. And we should move our knight and rooks to control the c file. And the other question is how can we potentially maybe we can move the knight, maneuver the knight to c4 from this route. So we should think like from a long-term perspective. And it's interesting why I didn't play knight c5. I think knight c5 is better, it's more active. Knight e7, knight f5. Yeah, this is also a good square, but the thing is because white has a c3 pawn, so we cannot attack d4 in an efficient way. g5, b5, rook b8, rook d2. I think the purpose is very clear. The rook is going to b4. And yeah, so our b5 pawn is a backward pawn, just like a c3. So the question is which side can attack the weakness of the opponent quickly. So it looks like white can attack our b5 in one move. And on the other side, I don't think we can attack c3 very soon. So maybe we need to think about a way how can we protect the b5 pawn. Knight a5, yeah, rook b2. I think we'll lose the pawn. I think the best way potentially could be knight king d7. If the rook to b2, we can move the pawn to b4. And even though we lose the b4, we can win the d4. And that's a good thing for us, I think, because this pawn is connected. It's a protected pawn. So we play knight a5. Yeah. And the problem is not only losing a pawn, but also the b file is opened. And this rook is very active, attack our knight, and also the a4 pawn become isolated. So that's a big problem. And we lose another pawn. Yeah, I think white has way more advantage than us. As I said, white has up 2 pawns, and I mean pieces being more active. We have 2 knights at the edge of the board, but I don't think we have much chance to win or even get a draw. White divide the queen. Yeah, if we want to trade the rooks, we have to move knight to ca. And it's really hard. Yeah, the a3 pawn will be captured. Okay. Well, I don't think I will move on from this position. I think it's really hard to play further. I think the main point is, first of all, I think we should know in this position, focusing on the queen side is better for us. And another thing is we should attack the c3 pawn as soon as possible with doubling the rooks and moving knight to c4, for example. And when our opponent has the intention to attack b5, we should figure out a way to solve that. That's it.